We are live. The floor is yours.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order, 7:03. Starting with attendance, Sheldon,
Sheldon Cone.
Chris Gombieski.
Rick Pullen.
Sarah Gutierrez.
Gail Linden.
All right, looking for approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to the minutes from October 23rd, 2023. I have one correction. I wasn't there. I believe I'm noted to be there and voting.
I have a correction too. I was there, and it says that I was not here or there, absent
You're
or
not listed
present.
either.
So, and if there's any other things, please make sure that we say it, because the young lady that takes the minutes takes them off of the video. So if we have to
Okay.
articulate the changes, so thank you for that very much, both of you. If you have anything more,
No.
Motion to approve the minutes as edited.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to the matter of site plan review for an addition to 25910 Concord.
Mr. Chair, before it starts, I do have to say, to give notice that I live on the block of Concord at the opposite end of the street, at probably the farthest spot of 200 feet of notice, but I believe that I can be fair and impartial. I know them as neighbors, and that's block party and so on.
Okay, thank you for notifying us.
if nobody has an objection, then Gail would continue.
Do we need to vote on that?
You should, just for the record,
Okay.
because she's the quorum.
All right, any objections?
No.
Or is it a motion
Someone
to
would
allow,
make a affirmative
motion to
Can she vote on it?
allow Gail to vote?
She has to vote on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to allow Gail to continue and vote on.
Move to acknowledge that Gail has disclosed that she's within the notice area, and to nevertheless allow her to sit and participate and vote in determination of approval or not of the proposed plan.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I can't repeat that.
It's in the minutes.
All right, so we'll continue on. Hank, who do we want to present first? Do we have a owner or a builder here?
We have a builder for the first one.
All right, if you could just come up, introduce yourself, and give us a brief explanation of the project.
Sure, thank you. My name is Chris Lampier with LL Custom Contracting. We're representing the Bolu family on the addition to their home on Concord. The existing residence is a two-story masonry structure with a single-story family room off the back of the house that has cement board siding for the cladding. So we're looking at going directly up over that one-story unit with a 190 square foot dormer that would bump out in the rear yard of the home to make a new master suite into the upstairs. And we're keeping the exterior elements the same as the existing lower level that we're covering with the cement board siding and wood-clad windows. That's the gist of the project.
Okay, Hank?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, what we have here is structure will meet the height requirements. The front yard, there is no change. There is existing no change to the side yards, and the proposed, okay, so they got 20, let me see what he did here. Okay, so he's 24.83, not to the addition peak, but to the rear yard, or to the, that should be That's the height. Okay, so he made this, but they do meet the rear yard requirements. They're over the existing, so that's fine. They're under the lot coverage. They're under the maximum house size. And, their lot is 54 by 132, is in a regular shape, as are all of the neighbors on these properties. So it's a little bit awkward for them. Their lot area is 7,537 square feet. Their east neighbor is 8,174, and their west neighbor is 7,460. The house size of the west neighbor is 2822. This comes in at 2431. The other neighbor's 2084, so this fits right smack in the middle of it. The architecture is consistent with the houses on either side. Exterior material is brick with the exception of the siding. The siding is over a sided first floor, so it would be extremely difficult to match brick on the second floor and not on the first floor because of the brick ledge situation. And they wouldn't be asked to do that, which is one of the reasons to be here. If you take a look at the side and for what they get, their bonuses were only height, detached garage. They did not get the fenestration bonus. If you took a look at the elevation, you'll see that on the one side, which is the south elevation, they did not have any windows on the second floor. But if you take a look at their floor plan, you'll see why. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer to the extent that I can, and I'm sure Mr. Lampier would be happy as well.
All right, we'll open it up for any public participation. All right, start with Sheldon.
Okay. Hank, just for clarification,
Yeah,
the rear yard, the notation on the page is confusing.
yeah, that's supposed to be to the peak. The 24.83 is to the peak. That should be actually under the height where it says 22.8. The rear yard has not changed at all.
Okay. Got it. All right.
It's over an existing.
All right. The only question I have relates to the big blank space on the second floor on the south elevation. That's the, my understanding is that's, and the question is whether or not they're breaking up that large blank space on the second floor.
The reason for the design of that wall without having any windows in it is that's the wall where the bed goes up against, so it makes it challenging.
Wall would have what?
Pardon me?
I didn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry,
Can you step up to a microphone?
that section of the addition, that wall would have the bed up against it, so it makes it challenging to put any windows on that wall.
Okay, all right, I understand it. We're not supposed to take into account the interior use in particular, but I'm just saying that seems to be a big blank thing that the neighbors are looking at. Other than that, I have no objections, no comments, no criticisms to the plan.
I don't have any questions.
Other side of me, Sarah?
I don't have any questions.
I don't have questions. It would be nice to see not having 2 hall bathrooms and finally gaining a master bathroom, because that's how the house is set up right now, is a bathroom at both ends of the upper hall. So it gives them the extra space above and can create a better closet and a master bath.
Is that it, Gail? Mm-hmm. All right, so I have a question on the south elevation. I don't believe we have a full elevation. There's the front of the house doesn't show anything forward of the chimney. Are there windows currently there?
So he's primarily looking in this area here. So do the windows there, do they mimic the windows that exist on the other side of the chimney?
I know the upstairs one does, I'm not familiar with that. Homeowner says that the lower one does as well.
Gail, can you take,
Thank you.
All right, so then going to the addition, so just so you know, I'm trying to judge that elevation as a whole, inclusive of the existing part of the house and the addition. So although don't take into account interior layout, there should be space somewhere in that elevation, either transom windows or windows to either side of the bed, that there would be a spot to put a window, right?
I'm sure we could find one, yes. And a transom would be more in line with, similar to the windows that would be below it on the first floor.
Mr. Chair, if that's something that the planning commission felt was needed for that elevation, you could incorporate that into a motion for approval. However, you might want to give the contractor a chance to discuss that with the homeowners prior to going down that road. And again, not rushing you, because if you have other comments.
My other comment would be the existing windows. You are matching the new windows to the existing windows?
Correct.
And are the existing windows relatively new?
No. Yeah.
Okay, so, but all wood or wood clad?
Wood clad.
Are the original windows wood clad or all wood?
All wood.
That's what I thought. They're what I've got.
And in this existing porch area, same condition, all wood?
I believe they're wood clad, but I would have to verify that.
That's it for my comments. Any additional comments about the transom windows?
I would like to see a transom window, but I'd like him, if he could, and I recognize you got to get the okay from the homeowner, but I would like to see a transom window, and I'd like some sort of representation as to size.
And are you talking about a transom window on both the south and the,
I'm just
it would only be on
talking,
the south side where there isn't anything? As
yes,
to whether it's the same as the windows below it, or whether it's gonna be more like the windows where you have transoms above it on the east window. You have a different kind of transom window above your double hung.
from my standpoint, I'll defer to the builder and the
Right.
homeowner. But I would like something represented on the record. It seems to me it would make sense to be something very much like the one that's below on the first floor, but I've got no skill or design taste whatsoever, so I would defer to the builder and the
The
homeowner.
other wall's a TV wall, is that,
Correct.
okay,
And there is, it overlaps with the existing second-story structure.
right. Perhaps if you want to have a brief discussion with your homeowner, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, we can take a minute.
want to take a
Break.
couple minutes and, okay.
Can I ask a question? Does proximity to the next home make a difference for that window placement? Because our home is super close to the home beside it, and so it would be disruptive to be that close. I wasn't sure if distance between houses makes a difference with the windows.
It typically doesn't when we look for fenestration. What your options are for this would be to ask them to vote on what you have presented right now, or to adjust it and add the transom window in and ask them to vote on that. That could be incorporated into a motion as simply as replicating the transom window that's on the first floor, on the second floor, in the same approximate location and design, so that the edges line up.
All right.
You could do something as simple as
Hank,
that.
defer to Rick, but I think they should also be aware that they need the whole
That's, yeah,
panel to approve tonight, because you need all five to vote positively on approval of the plan, otherwise it fails. And if, your other choice here would be to defer and come back to the next meeting when we might have more, you might have a better, you wouldn't need a unanimous vote of the commission.
right, with the understanding that that meeting would happen in January.
No, December.
So, just to elaborate a little bit of my opinion on this, the addition on, right now, you have three sides to it. You're only providing fenestration on one side. So the other side where the TV's at and the overhang's at isn't really a possibility. And that back side, it creates a large mass on the back of the house that we're trying to split up a little bit. Now, those windows, transom, you could get them frosted, you could, there's a million things you could do with them. But it's mostly to break up the elevation, and actually the closer the neighbor's house is to you, the more we want it to break it up a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, if you want to call an actual 2-minute recess.
Yep, we'll take a 2-minute recess.
I'm never big watcher.
I know.
You see the new sign went up at the collision shop? The collision shop?
Doesn't that look nice? Finally, she
Same thing I asked about.
Everybody is back.
All right,
You should reconvene the meeting.
yep, we'll reconvene the meeting.
All right,
So-
thank you for the opportunity to
Yeah.
have a 2-minute break. We would like to defer until the January meeting so we can discuss it with the architect and get the sizing right and make sure that we look at the transoms fully.
Okay,
Be able to come back.
all right, so we can table that.
Okay, move the table to the January meeting, this plan.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
If you could also finish out that one elevation, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, moving on to site plan review of a new house at 13135 Sherwood. Who do we have representing?
Absolutely. You can sit, you can use the table if you want, Dominic, too, whatever, you got stuff to say. Okay.
All right, good evening. My name is Dominic Abate, representative of Heller and Associates. We are the designer and builder for the homeowners of 13135 Sherwood.
Do you want the rendering up first, Dominic?
Yeah, you can, that's fine.
I'll do this while you explain your project.
Okay. So the proposed project we have is a full remodel and addition to the existing home. The home currently has a detached garage, and a large factor of the remodel is attaching the garage. We are planning on reusing the existing basement and foundation. That being said, we do have a couple of small architectural additions to the front of the home, and we do have an addition to the back of the home as well. And in addition to the house square footage addition, we do have a proposal for an attached covered lanai off the back of the house. The primary material being used for the house is brick veneer. We do have some second-story areas that will be stucco board, along with some vertical hardy siding at the peaks of the gables. The trim work on the house, that'll be a primed pine material to be painted, and an accent of a stone chimney is included. We have all new windows going into the home. Those will be clad wood windows. And we are salvaging the main floor deck and as much of the second floor as we can as well. The intent, though, is to take the roof off of the home and take the upper story walls down to the second floor deck. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, Hank, if you could give us a summary as well?
Yes, Mr. Chair, certainly. I do want to point out, as soon as I pick this up, but I do want to point out that what they're doing here is over 50% of the house, so that's why it comes in as a new house. They're renovating over 50% of it. If you take a look at the layout and the plan that they have there, I'll go through the technical stuff first because it does require a couple variances. You know, your height on it is 30 feet, which is what's allowed, but they don't get the height criteria for 26 feet. So the front yard, was required is 30 feet, they're at 39.07. Side yards requires a 2.16 lineal foot variance, and the reason for that is the car garage on the side, so that they can attach it to the house. So that's where that comes in. For the rear yard lot coverage, they're well ahead of where they need to be at 67.74 feet, and they're only 20.54 feet for the lot coverage, which is well less than the, or percent, which is well less than the 30% required. Maximum house size, they do need 194 square foot variance for that. They get 2,500 by right. They get the large lot bonus of 462 feet, plus the architectural details equals the 3212, but they're proposing 3406. So they're proposing a house that's going to be significantly larger. On this side here, if you take a look at the property, the lot is 13,165 square feet. The east neighbor is 11,275 square feet, and the west neighbor is a more modest 6,716 square feet. So the neighbor with the east, which the next largest lot is 2,506 on the square footage, and the west neighbor's at 1,603, and they're at 3,406. Some of the interesting things to note with this is that their intent, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dominic, at any point in time here, is that they're looking at using the existing foundation. So
Yes.
that kind of dictates where that garage is going to go, if they're going to be able to attach it. And you can see that it goes up and behind the structure that's proposed where the existing foundation is. And you can see by the black lines where the new construction is going to be on this. I do want to go back to the front because I do want to go through a couple things here and talk about the rendering for a second. So what you see here is this is actually being turned into more of a Tudor revival style of house, with the chimney in the front on the side, and you look at the stucco half timbering style design, and then the hardy plank, which would be like the vertical siding on the top. You can see they're using soldier coursing, on the front, where over the windows, they have a soldier course decorative over the front entryway and over the window on the front, which is very prominent. You can see that they'll have the stone sills is what it's looking like to me from here. And then, again, the stone with an articulated chimney on that one side. There you can see through the sides. Then on the doorway here, if you take a look at over here where the garage is, they've stepped the garage about as far back as you can step it and still get it attached. So that's one of the reasons that they feel that, or at least in our discussions, that they feel that the variance has a good chance of success, is that it's so far back that the distance to the side negates what would normally be there. So those are some of the things that you might want to take a look at. The addition as itself is, if you see a look at how they did the stucco half timbering and the hardy plank, the vertical hardy plank, along with the fenestration on the front elevation, it breaks up the mass really very nicely. But you can see where the top attaches right to the peak of the existing roof, and that's what puts them at the 30 feet, so which is the max. So that's why they didn't get the bonuses. Were they to get the bonuses, then they wouldn't need to be here because they would qualify for all of it. But because they didn't, they don't. And I'm going to show you when we get to the elevations here. Give me just a second. So here's the front elevation that you see here. It might be easier to look here for you guys. It's a little bit sharper anyway. But if you see here, that's the front. So there's the back with similar peaks, and then the same thing, the attention to detail and the attention to massing has been paid here. They've got rails going up over there, so it's broken up pretty well. And then, wait, let me get to this. Here's the one side, and this is the side with the garage. So on the side with the garage, they have the opal and nye to the back. They have the garage, which is the brick, and then they have a large amount of fenestration on the side to break up that mass. And then they feel that that would also help them. It's for the variance request for the 2.6 or the 2.16 lineal feet on that side. along with breaking up the mass up top by using the same stucco half-timber treatment that they're using on the fronts of the structure. On the other side here, which it gives you here, you can see that they do have the windows on the sides over here. There is an expanse here that does not have the windows. And again, the larger lanai, which gives them outdoor living space, which is covered. It basically extends the life of the outdoor use in Michigan. So having said that, if you have any questions, I mean, I'm really here to try to answer anything that you have. So I'm sure that Mr. Abate would as well, and the homeowners are here this evening. So if there's any questions, we certainly could feel free to ask. Again, I'll point out, which the chairman usually points out, is that you need all 5 votes of the people here. So if there's some question or call or anything like that that you want to, you do have the right to defer, with the understanding that it would be to the January meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
All right, we'll open it up for public participation. Close public participation. Sheldon?
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
did you? Yes, go ahead and step up and tell us who you are.
Okay. I don't know if this is the right time. I'm Alan Wolfson. I live two houses from this lot. And I just want to state that I would be personally honored to have this house on my block. Right now, it is a ranch house that is, I want to say, sort of dumpy looking. And changing that house to this house would be a great improvement for the block. I recently did an addition on my house. I want to say it was about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. I think that improved the house. There's an addition going on across the street. And this house would be an amazing improvement for the street. Not that the street is not a bad street. I think Sherwood's an amazing street. I just, I don't sit in your positions to make these decisions, but I can't imagine any reason why Huntington Woods wouldn't want this house in their, in the city. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank
Are
you.
you to the east or west of them? Are you towards
I am to
Berkeley
the
or?
east.
Okay,
I don't know if you drive down, I'm the stone house,
okay.
a big stone garage.
You're towards Henley, okay.
Yes.
Hmm?
I didn't expect to speak, but I'm Naomi Lobel. I'm one of the homeowners, and I grew up here in Huntington Woods, and I fell in love with the Tudors of Huntington Woods, and it was always my hope and dream to live in a Tudor-style home. So when we decided that we wanted to embark on a home renovation, it would have been a lot cheaper and easier to figure out how to make a box kind of on top of our structure, but it wouldn't be as beautiful as this house that we've come up with, which I just think fits the personality of what Huntington Woods is with the Tudor style homes. So I'm super, super proud of this. I love all the windows, all the light it will give, and I hope you love it too. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we'll close public participation. Sheldon?
Okay. Hank, the garage isn't going on existing footings or foundation? is it?
No, the garage is not.
Okay. Is it a 2-car or 3-car?
It's a modest 2-car.
Okay. Got it. All right. Wanted to confirm, first floor, you've identified as brick veneer.
Correct.
I mean, is that brick
Yes,
for us laymen?
yes.
Okay. It's not just,
No,
Fixed.
full, no, it'd be full bed depth, yes.
okay, it's
Correct.
not a picture of brick.
Correct.
Brick. Okay. Got it. And that's all 4 sides?
All 4 sides.
Okay. Is there, I noticed, is there a living space over the garage or not?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right, I mean, I appreciate, it's a wonderful design, and I appreciate the investment in the city. My problem is, when you start with essentially a blank space, I don't know why there should be a plan that involves requiring variances, especially maximum house size. I sort of get the one that, about the garage and adding the garage, that seems appropriate and a reasonable thing to do. And I'm not pretending to sit in the seat of the zoning board who would make that judgment. But when it comes to exceeding the maximum house size by a relatively modest 194 square feet, I don't know why you have to do that. There seems to me that there has to be a way to avoid that particular, I mean, we're stuck with the ordinances we have. And as a member of the Planning Commission, I recognize the jurisdiction of the zoning board. I've served on the zoning board. On the other hand, I think that we are entitled to look at the requested plan that's made here and determine, given that it needs variances, I think that can be part of the consideration that we make here. So, you know.
Sheldon, if I
Yeah,
could
that's my 2
interrupt
cents.
you for a second.
You may.
I think we should limit the discussion a little bit and allow the ZBA to handle the variance portion of it, and our discussion should be more focused around massing, does it fit in the block, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Then strictly, does it require the variances?
Okay, I disagree with that valuation, okay? I'm saying that we can take into account whether or not variances are needed in determining whether or not to accept the plan. I think we've done it before, and, anyway, that's my 2 cents here. I don't understand, and I'm not critical of the design, I'm not critical of the materials, I'm not critical of any of that. It's just that if we've got an ordinance that says this should be the maximum, I don't understand when you start with essentially a blank piece of paper, why that particular dimension can't be accommodated somewhere in this 3,500, 3,400 square foot house. That's my 2 cents. I have no other comments when it comes to the plan.
You're welcome to respond to that if you'd like.
If you don't mind, I'd love to hear a couple more comments.
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have the same thought as Sheldon. However, I wanted to kind of focus more on the variance for the side yard, that's mainly for the garage. Is that my understanding?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, as well, okay. Yeah, that's basically all my comments on as well.
And we tried to take the garage width down as much as possible.
Right.
Is that it? Sarah?
I think it's a beautiful house. I like the different textures that you're using as far as the stone, the brick, all of the different materials. I mean, I understand that there's rules that, they want, to follow, but I also think it's like not that much of a difference, 194 square feet. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of impartial about it. Doesn't really bother me personally.
Okay, Gail?
First, I'd like to ask Hank, on the bonuses that they're getting, the 462 for the lot bonus, what are the 250 architectural details? Is that the max they can get, or can we find anything else or change something? What's the 250?
Well, Okay, so the 250 that we had on this was, Muntin bars, the brick rowlocks and soldier coursing, trim boards for the sided wall windows, and, wood windows that were clad, so they actually hit way more than the 3 that they needed to
So
hit.
250 is the max they can get, though.
250 is the max they can get out of
Okay.
that. They don't get the fenestration, and again, Dominic and I went through that, and they're very, you know,
And they don't get the detached garage.
And they don't
they're
get the-
attaching it.
correct, and they
That's-
don't
they
get
could
the
get more.
stepped-in second floor, and they don't get the roof height because they're going right up. The issue with the roof height is that they're matching the existing roof height, and because of the style, or they're making the roof height not matching because it doesn't exist,
gonna
but
come
they're
off.
making it the pitch so that it matches what would be typical on a Tudor revival style of architecture, which are 12 pitches and, you know, around that, so that's the roof height one. So the only thing that they could do to get that, which would be only 150 square feet anyway, so even if they were to drop that down, they couldn't drop it down to 26. It would dramatically change the look of the house. I would, if I'm looking at the plan and looking at to what is true to the design characteristics, the roof line is not something that I would mess with, but that's.
No, it needs to heighten the pitch for it.
Yeah, it defeats the purpose of the architecture to do something less than that. At some point, when you drop the pitch that significantly.
I just wondered if there was anything that could be stepped back but they've already gotten the maximum in the architectural details,
Well,
and that would fall in there.
The thing to consider, if the commission was going to consider something, is, perhaps, taking some square footage out of, like, bedroom 4 or something like that, in order to get you closer to something that may be more palatable to some of you, to the point where it would pass through to the zoning board of appeals. So that's something that could happen. What the options would be here is to vote on it as is presented, and then if, for whatever reason, it doesn't pass this evening, they could take a look at taking more square footage out of it. If I'm listening to what everybody's saying, there's way less of a problem with the 2.16 footage for the garage than there is with the maximum house size footage. And if that's the case, and it was voted down, then they could revisit that at a January meeting, but it wouldn't be before January. So
But if we turn down, they'd need to reapply.
they would need to reapply, and they would also, but if you turn them down, they're gonna have to adjust something on the plan anyway. You can't come back with the same plan if you've been turned down. So, but if it goes forward, then they're good to go. If it doesn't go forward, and, if it goes forward, then the ZBA would make the determination whether the 194 is too much, whether the 2.16 is too much. So that would be on them.
By the same token, if they defer, they could come back with a slightly modified plan if they chose.
If they defer, they don't even have to come back with a slightly modified plan.
But they could.
come back with, they could, but they could come back just because there's going to be different board members and a more full board for them to take a look at.
Right, taking into effect that some of our terms end this
Well, there
season,
may be
and there's
different.
going to be new people coming in, and
Right.
there's people who are missing today.
That is correct. So that may be something that they want to take a look at, or they may want to roll the dice and see what vote they get, knowing that they would have to modify it anyway if they didn't get a vote tonight. So that's up to the applicants.
Well,
Another question for you, Hank. The
Yeah.
Lanier, that counts for
The Lanai
lot
counts
coverage,
as lot
correct?
coverage, yes, lot
Because
coverage,
it has a roof on it.
Yes.
And they're well under on lot coverage.
way
And
under.
I understand on the detached garage, because when you build a house with a detached garage, you only have to be 3 feet from the lot line. But if you attach it to the house, you have to be 5 feet from the lot line.
Right.
And that's why the foundation is a little bit funny there, but
Right. 'cause
looking at the dimensions, I think they have it on that side, it's just altogether, it's
Yeah.
not in the right
It's
place.
the total of 2 that they're going to be lacking.
correct.
So the issue with that is that they want to use the existing foundation So once they do that, they're kind of hamstrung a little bit as to where they can attach the garage. So that's where that one is, and that's why it lent itself to attaching it towards the back, so that the mass, scale, size, and they put a large amount of fenestration on the side in order to make it more palatable for the neighbors on that side. Having said that, that's something that, you know, clearly the ZBA could decide on. Whether or not you want to let it pass with the square footage and kind of like punt it to the ZBA, if you will, and see if they'll find that that square footage addition, the additional square footage is palatable. That's up to you this evening. But the decision to whether or not to defer or whatever, that would be up to the applicant to ask the board for.
Well, could I make another comment?
You can make all the comments
Okay.
you want.
Thank you for appreciating the hard work we've done on the design of the project, by the way. We do take a lot of pride in what we do. The house overall, I understand that we're slightly over for house size, but the house itself really is not that large, and almost 200 square feet would make a bit of a difference to this home and make it a bit challenging to get these rooms in here. And I just wanted to, you know, kind of plead that case that, you know, I feel like the 194, I believe it is, that we're asking for is not, not that excessive.
Gail, did you have anything else to ask?
That's, the addition that you're putting on is the portico, the porch in the front, and then across the back, is that correct?
Correct. There's the porch up front, which is covered,
And a little bit of
a little bit of
Of the
foyer
guest
space.
bed.
Yes.
foyer and a little in the
and
guest
then
room,
correct.
and then
correct.
all the way across the back.
That, yeah, those front additions are basically architectural features on the house.
And so the back is really the only play space if there's anything on 100 whatever square feet.
That's correct.
Okay. Nope, that's it.
How close were they to the fenestration bonus?
They were a little bit shy. Dominic, do you remember? We ran
I have,
numbers.
the front and rear of the homes
They comply.
are in excess of 20%, which is the minimum to get the bonus. The sides were under.
Significantly, or?
Mr.
Close.
Chair,
Yeah.
the fenestration was just given an extra 150, I think, which still
This-
wouldn't cover the 100 or 150.
Right, it's 150, but it
Yeah.
might get close enough to the point where the planning commission would feel palatable.
Then you're only
with that.
44.
Subject to getting a ZBA approval, that it's the minimum necessary for approval.
Well, he's trying to go to the minimum necessary to turn this from where they're going with this, or at least where I see that you guys are going with this, is that if you can get that 150 square feet by making the fenestration a little bit larger, then this thing passes tonight, assuming that you still need to get the 45 square feet of variance from the ZBA. But at that point, you're asking for 45 square feet instead of 195 square feet. Am I reading this right, or?
Well, I think I've made it clear, as the plan stands, I would not vote to approve it, which means tonight it would fail. So I'll respect the decision of the homeowner and the contractor, Mr. Abate, to make a decision whether they want to face the denial of the approval of the plan, or come back and take another shot at it with the existing plan or with some tweaks in it. I'll, you know,
Can you
It could-
discuss
look,
your,
if-
can you talk about your objections a little bit more so we better understand them?
about what?
About your objections?
Yeah, my objection is that the house is too large. Okay?
Relative to what?
It's too large based upon the allowed size in the ordinance.
Could we take a 2-minute recess? Would that be excessive?
Yeah.
So I guess, as you take that recess, or before we take that recess, just to be clear with the options would be to have us vote on it. It likely would not pass, because you would need all yeses to pass. Or, tabling it will take it to the January meeting, at which point you could have it in front of the ZBA in that amount of time, or,
Well, I would defer the ZBA.
okay.
Because it
So you
should go
could
to
make
planning
adjustments,
first.
either way you could make adjustments and resubmit it. And we would vote on it in January. Can't say for sure that we'd have more members here, but it would be a strong possibility.
Is there a possibility that today in their discussion that they can change something in fenestration on the sides in order to gain more square footage and have a minimal amount that may or may not pass here? Again, if Sheldon's vote is negative on
I'm
both.
not comfortable with
The
that
garage either.
kind of, unlike adding one window, which we did on the last plan, which seemed to be pretty clear. I'm not comfortable making dimensional changes.
Okay,
That's my 2 cents. And if in January, the board, whether I'm on it or not, and if it's a more complete board at that point and I get outvoted, I've been married for 50 years. I'm used to losing arguments. It's not new territory for me. But anyway, that's kind of where I am. We've got the ordinance there and it's there for a reason. And if there's a reason to change the ordinance, that's not in our bailiwick necessarily. Given what we have and given that they're starting with a relatively blank piece of paper, it seems to me they can do something about that 190 or substantially reduce it. I don't want to take a position right now. I don't want to set a specific number that would be acceptable. But right now, where it is not acceptable. So, to me, and that will have consequences in terms of the disposition of this approval or disapproval of this plan.
So, we'll take a 2-minute
Yeah,
recess?
please, just so I can discuss it with the homeowner, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
yep, we'll do a 2-minute recess, thanks.
We're live.
Mr. Chair, they're back, and I believe that they have a decision.
Okay, we'll restart the meeting after a recess, reconvene.
Thank you for the brief recess. In light of some of the comments that we've received tonight, I am asking that we table till the January meeting to allow us some time to address the square footage and the square footage overage and use the fenestration bonus to get much closer to where we need to be.
Okay. We'll look for a motion.
Yeah.
Table.
Move to table this application till the
All right,
January meeting.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the public hearing for the proposed changes to our sign ordinance.
All odd pages.
Yeah, there's some numbering things that we're going to have to deal with. So, Mr. Chair, at this point in time, the copies of the ordinance have been distributed, the ordinance has been published on the website, notice has been sent, everything has been appropriately done. The Planning Commission had a discussion about it, the city attorney has shown up and weighed in on it. To let you know, you also have a commentary from the city attorney on this. At this point in time, it would be appropriate to make a motion to either recommend or not recommend to the city commission to approve the sign ordinances as changed. At that point in time, it will be up to the city commission whether they feel that the ordinance is serving the best interests of the city as it is, or changes could still be made at that level. Having said that, Mr. Chair, it's up to you as to how you would like to proceed.
Could you give us a little bit of a summary of what the findings were on controlling temporary signs?
Yeah, without going into the memo from the city attorney, basically, the commissioners expressed interest in regulations concerning real estate signs, political message, ideological signs, and event signs. And what they did was they gave us some information as to other cases and situations where that has been dealt with or adjudicated, and then commentary on that. I can't go ahead, part of that is a privileged communication, so I can't get too far into that, but with the hopes that that has answered the questions that the commission had at the last part. What they have done is they've gone ahead and they've added a tremendous amount of graphics. They've added a tremendous amount of language as to what there is, with this. And basically what they've done is they've taken a very brief sign ordinance and they've extrapolated it to the point where there can be no doubt as to what we allow and when we allow it and what's there. So, for example, like a lot of the stuff that we have, and we do get signs from time to time. I mean, the ZBA just had one variance for the Armitage collision sign, which was approved, and it looks very nice up there. So there are times for the signs. As far as regulating political signs, you can only regulate temporary signs. You can't say real estate sign. You can't say political sign. You either regulate them or you don't. It's all or none. And then there's the First Amendment right to free speech that comes into play, which was addressed in the city attorney's memo. So that's really about what it is. I had hoped that the city attorney, when they had a representative here, had answered your questions regarding that. What would be appropriate here is if you if you have more questions, I mean, we can get the city attorney back again, but they've indicated that they would like this to go forward to the city commission if it's the pleasure of the planning commission.
All right, we'll open it up for public participation. Seeing none, we'll close that. Move on to commission comments. Sheldon?
Yeah, I'll defer to the opinion of the city attorney that this complies with the applicable standards regarding First Amendment, and I'm happy to vote for recommending it for approval to the city commission.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody once said if they're willing to approve it and they need to defend it in court, I'm with them as well, so I have no problem.
I wasn't at that meeting, but when they were talking about the signs for builders, like, there's been a situation where my neighbor had a building sign in their yard for a year, and it never came down after the 35 days or 40, whatever it is, and then you can put it back up. Is anyone enforcing these rules?
It depends on whether most of our code enforcement with this or with signs are complaint-based, so if nobody's complaining about it, it typically wouldn't be something that we would go out and look for.
Okay,
I will tell you that, to the extent possible, that we do have a new code enforcement person, and they are now, rather than working 1 day a week in Thursday court, they're working 3 days a week, sometimes 4. So we do have more actual code enforcement on the street, so there's more areas that can be covered. So it's highly likely that we'll see more of this.
okay,
And then once we see the beginning, because it's hard to see the beginning when the sign goes up,
right,
so you got 35 days or whatever your daily limit is for the sign, then somewhere it's like chalking the tires, you know, if you don't have a place to start, you don't have a place to
Right.
end. So that's kind of where that's at. But the hopes with this being more specific and being more consistent for all, that it would also help the enforcement mechanisms with this.
that's my only.
Okay, thank you. Gail?
Again, if the attorney drafted it and is willing to defend it, I'm not one to play with it and change it and, you know.
I don't have any additional comments. So I believe we're looking for a motion to recommend this to the city commissioners
For approval.
for approval.
Move that we recommend approval to the city commission of the ordinance that's been presented tonight as modified.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. We'll open it up for public participation again. Seeing none, we'll close it.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Thank you all very much.
Wait, we're stuck.
No, I changed my vote. It's okay.
He does that every meeting. So, just for everybody's understanding, is that at the next meeting, we would also be voting for officers.
Which is a January.
So it's a January meeting.
All right, I'll put out my yard signage for it.
Yeah,
We'll let you know. if
35
the
days.
commission has- Yeah.
Temporary.
absolutely.
put 3 of them.
So, all right, so thank you all very much. And again, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year.
Same to you.
And we'll see you when I see you.
Sounds good.
Unless I see you first.
Absolutely. That's the thing, everybody sees everybody around here.